Welcome to the Rock Off Rugby podcast with me, Mark Moss.
And me, Sam Leeming.
Today's guest is Wales 7-star Luke Treharne.
Fantastic and brutally honest interview with Luke. We had a good chat about his journey into sevens, his time with Samurai, balancing his doctorate degree alongside playing rugby, the brutality of going as 13-man to Rio.
We also talk about Luke's social media presence and his work that he's doing on YouTube with This Is Sevens, producing quality rugby content for young players to learn from and develop during lockdown. This podcast is made possible by our good friends at YSIP.
YSIP is an eco-friendly company that design and assemble their own range of reusable products here in the UK.
YSIP aims to spread the word about becoming a plastic-free, zero-waste world and offers everybody an alternative to harmful plastics.
Check them out on Instagram and Facebook. The link will be in the show notes.
Welcome to the Ruck Off Rugby podcast, Luke Treharne. Luke, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, cool. So just basically for the guys at home that don't know you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Luke Treharne. I currently playing rugby sevens for Wales. I've been doing so for the last 6 years, I think now. Studied medicine at uni as well alongside it. And at the moment, just itching to see when we can get back and play some rugby after lockdown.
All good. So start at the start, Luke. Where did it start for you? I imagine you started playing 15s and school in Wales and stuff. So give us a little bit of information about that and sort of your progress onto the World Series.
Yeah, so I think pretty much anybody who grows up in Wales, you have to at least have a go at rugby when you're kind of 7 or 8. So I think me and all my mates just went to the local team, pretty much played 15s up until under 15s, I'd say. And then schoolboys rugby was massive in Wales. I don't think it's quite got the same kind of allure to it now as it did when I was younger. And that's your first chance of playing. They have a massive sevens tournament where pretty much all the schoolboys teams meet in Llandovery once a year, and then you get to be called like the best sevens team for that year. From there, got into the Scart Academy, which I love. To be fair, I think it was quite new that these professional clubs had academies. So I think I was in maybe like the 4th or 5th year that they did it. So that was cool. From there, I went to big rugby college internationally called College Treharne. So played 15s there and sevens, got to go to like Roslyn Park and all those kind of tournaments, which was great fun. And as I left then to decide to go to uni, I left the academy, and then I think that was when sevens started kicking off for me. So I played loads and loads of invitational sevens when I was kind of 17 or 18 for Samurai mainly. When I was in uni, played for the university, played for the sevens teams there, got into Welsh students, GB students, and from that ended up being invited to do pre-season with Wales Sevens when Paul John was the head coach back then. So I actually did 2 full pre-seasons, I think when I was 18 and 19, before I ended up actually playing in a tournament, which was the Glasgow Commonwealth Games. And since then, I've just been playing on the Sevens circuit for Wales. So that's kind of a quick overview of everything I think I've done in rugby.
Awesome. Go back to Roslyn Park. How was your school? Was that the first sort of taste of sevens, or did you always know you were going to go into sevens, or was it just sort of playing a few tournaments like that? Obviously, they're all good fun when you're at school.
To be fair, that first taste at like under 15 schoolboys level, I just absolutely loved it. Our team ended up going and winning. We did actually have Samson Lee playing for us in the sevens team, which a lot of people always find funny. But there's some great video we've got of him literally just getting it, just running straight. And Jordan Williams, who's playing for the Dragons at the moment. So we had a lot of good players playing that team. But I think it was definitely in college when you first got to play in the things like Roslyn Park. We maybe did like 4 or 5 other sevens tournaments a year, which I thought was just, I just absolutely loved it. I loved the whole day of going somewhere. Like often at age group, you just played a lot of the same teams all the way up. So I think when you were in college and you started actually traveling to go and play, that was probably the first time you got to play either people in England or just on the other side of Wales. So I absolutely loved that. We got to the quarters and semis once, I think it was. And then my little brother went and trumped me and he won it the year after. So he's got that one up on me, unfortunately. But I think it's just such a great tournament, Rosslyn Park. Shame it didn't get the run this year, but I think anybody who plays schoolboy rugby, England or Wales, just thinks it's incredible when you go there for the 2 days.
Your brother play as well? He plays as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, so we actually played for Wales in Europe last year for the first time.
It was in Poland, wasn't it?
In Poland, yeah. So that was a cool experience because we did a lot of the invitational stuff coming up together. And then when he went off to university, didn't quite have the same luck, I think, with getting into the Welsh setup the same time I did. But when he got given his chance, I thought he played really well. And then probably just a bit unfortunate now that everything kind of came to a halt with lockdown and COVID. But something he's open to doing it if it all starts back up again. But that was a really cool experience getting to play together for Wales for the first time.
Drop a little bit into your uni stuff. Obviously, you took a massively demanding degree in medicine. How do you find basically following that dream of professional rugby and doing a massive degree like medicine?
Yeah, it was. It wasn't like I was. So when I left the academy to go into my first year, I was very much, I just want to do university properly as well. So I didn't want to always have to be like driving back. So I was down in Exeter. I didn't want to have to be driving back. So kind of not back to Wales to train. So not doing the rugby properly or not doing the degree properly. So to be fair, for my first and second year, I pretty much was just down in university the whole time and going back for pre-season with Wales. And then after about second year, that's when I felt like basically I'd had enough fun at university doing like the usual stuff with the rugby teams and things there, and got offered a few more training sessions and a chance to potentially play with Wales. So probably from third year onwards, that was when it was quite hectic. So there was a lot of being in the hospital or in the library most of the day, and then either training first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and just basically repeating that day after day. So it was quite tough probably then on. But the best thing I think I did was when I took a year out between fourth and fifth year. And then that was when I played the full year of sevens, partly just to see whether I was good enough to play in the World Series or whether I enjoyed it. And then when I came back for my fifth year, I kind of did half and half. So I did 5 out of the 10 tournaments, and the rest of the time I was down in uni. Now when I look back at it, I don't know how I did it. And if someone said you had to do it all again, I'd be a bit like, oh, that'll be a tough slog. But it's just something I'm really glad I've done, and it's kind of behind me at the moment. So I'm just glad it's finished.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of mates that do medicine right now, and the amount of work they put into that degree, well, compared to the amount of work me and Sam put into our sports degrees, is just astronomical. I don't know how somebody could do that, but yeah, more credit to you for doing it. It's just great work ethic, I can see from that.
Cheers, thanks so much. I think it's with medicine, I think a lot of people think that it's just, the work isn't necessarily hard, there's just lots of it.
A lot of it,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. So it's just, but once you get into the routine, I think of just constantly having something just to do, whether it's just a little bit of work here before you go to the gym or running or something, and just being consistent with it is probably just the key. But definitely, it's not like it was perfect the whole way through. There's a couple of exams and different bits I failed, probably not getting quite the right balance of rugby and work. But definitely by the end, I was much more switched on to when I needed to work, when I needed to train, and how to keep kind of both camps happy.
So you played for Exeter in for the rugby stuff, Luke, in your first year. Were you doing? Was your focus more on the sevens when it came around in the summer, or how did that work?
To be fair, I just absolutely loved 15-a-side rugby in uni. I think towards the end of the academy, that kind of era, there was just all about putting as much weight on as you could.
Yeah,
and I'm only I'm only 5'7", and like my natural weight is probably something like 79 soaking wet. And I think by the time I left the academy, I was like 87 kg. So I was like, just in ridiculous, like it's just ridiculous for someone of my height. But that was what the academy and everybody just wanted to do, is like, oh, how much can you bench? How much can you squat? How much you weigh today? There's like no kind of like, how can you pass a ball, kick a ball? There was none of that when I was there. So I kind of fell out of love with 15s a little bit. And that's why I think I like 7 so much, is that you can be a big person and play it. But if you can't pass, kick, keep running, tackle under pressure, you're going to get found out. That was what I loved about 15s in university. I thought it was taken kind of the right level of seriousness. So you're still training like 4 times a week. You go and have a good game of rugby on Wednesday, then you go out with everybody in the evening. And I thought that was just like the best balance of taking it seriously, having actually like a really good competitive game of rugby, and then just being with your mates and having fun. So I absolutely loved those first 2 years, and I was just playing 15s. And then I kind of carried on with the 7s with university, probably played maybe 3 or 4 tournaments at the end of the year. And again, it was like lots of fun. I think the standard of university 7s is quite high in Britain. And I think it gets overlooked a little bit. But yeah, I absolutely loved that in my first 2 years.
Was there a bit of a culture change between the Welsh rugby and the English rugby when you started heading over to that? How did that change? I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, it's something I didn't notice there was as much a change until I came back. So obviously when you're growing up, you have a certain group of mates who you're playing with in Wales. And then obviously when I went to uni, it was a completely different set of boys. But then when I came back then, and you just see kind of how, I don't really know how to describe it. I think in Wales, kind of everybody plays rugby. So you get like a full wide range. I don't know whether it was because I was down in Exeter, it was very much like a specific kind of boy that was playing rugby there. Like great lads, but they'd often come from like a private school who was playing rugby. So it was kind of just different things they were chatting about, what they do after rugby, studying different degrees and things like that. So like when I went to college, I think out of maybe like 60 or 70 boys who were in the 3 rugby teams, I think I was one of only 2 people that did A levels. Whereas obviously when you went to Exeter, it was like if you didn't have like 2 A's and a B, you probably didn't get into the university. So it's just completely different kind of person, things they found funny, what they like doing. But I love it, but I love it all, to be honest. So definitely different, but it's still good fun. Everyone.
Isn't it that in English, in England, it's predominantly the private school boys that play rugby, and then in Wales, and then the state school lads play football. Whereas in Wales, it's the complete opposite, isn't it? That private schools play football and state schools play rugby.
Yeah, 100%. So it's to be fair, I love both groups of mates that I'm still mates with from it, and yeah, it just shows how like rugby's for anyone and everyone, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So on to played a few summers with Samurai. How was that step up from just the university 7s, Luke? You know, there's a fair few tournaments you get involved in, a real good shop window as well. How did that help you progress and maybe get spotted by some of the Welsh scouts over there?
I think it was probably the best thing that you can do if you want to try and play international 7s. It was a little bit lucky how I got into it the very first time. So when there was a group of us who finished in the academy, and there's this pub in Tenby which always takes a 7s team to it's called the Wild Boar 7s, which I think is just over the border.
Yeah.
And they basically just phoned around the academies, asked if anybody wanted to play, and we all got on to some minibus at like 4 a.m. With all like the locals from this pub who were basically using it just for a big day out. We had like these absolutely ridiculous like cotton kits. Like I think I was wearing something like a triple XL, just looked absolutely dreadful. And then when we turned up to this tournament, there was obviously all these teams who had like the full lycra kit and everything, and just we looked completely budget. But we ended up, because it was all boys from academies, we ended up getting all the way to the final. But from there, that was when I first got seen by Samurai. And one of the coaches, Billy May, came over and just spoke to my dad. And from then, I think I must have played every tournament for Samurai in the next like 2 summers. But I loved it, especially with the standard of like invitational sevens was huge. So you were still getting a lot of the World Series players playing for different invitational teams then in the summer when there wasn't any rugby on. So it was a massive step up initially. I loved it, even all the tournaments that were kind of local in England and Wales, but then they took you to like Amsterdam, took you to Kenya, started taking you around the world and seeing that side of sevens, which I think is equally as important or is one of the big like draws for young players. And I just absolutely loved the whole going somewhere foreign, meeting like 11 other boys you haven't played rugby with before, trying to bond as a team, and then trying to play all these other like high quality sevens teams in Kenya or Amsterdam, wherever you've gone. I absolutely loved it. And then that was probably what led the Welsh coaches to see me a bit more regularly and then getting asked into the setup.
I suppose on the World Series, it's a bit more glamorous to the places where you travel. But on those invitational tournaments, where was your favourite place? Where did you have the best time during that period?
To be fair, my favourite one would probably have to be Nairobi for the Kenya Sevens. So I think I did it quite early on. So I think I was only maybe like 18 or maybe just turned 19. And it was one of the first times I played rugby that wasn't in Britain. And it's I'm not sure it's still quite as big a tournament, but when we turned up there is when Kenya were right in the kind of prime of how good they were in the World Series. So they had their international teams split over 3 of their own teams, and it was just all other local teams come in. And there was something absolutely ridiculous, like 40,000 people watching it. And it was one of the first times I played in front of so many people, but it was just like, it was nuts. The pitch was like awful, but it was like a huge stadium. And it was just crazy. And there was 2 samurai teams. So there was one which was a bit more like Welsh boys, and then a few, I think it was kind of linked with Bristol University. So it was like half Bristol University boys, half samurai boys. And then the other one was the full samurai international team. So they had all the best like Kiwis, Aussie players, South Africans. So just being around them and seeing them when I was that young, I think really helped. And Nairobi's just a class place to go for a night out afterwards as well. And like when you're 18, 19, it's quite eye-opening.
I can imagine.
It's a pretty glamorous lifestyle. The sevens, obviously traveling all over the world, playing against some amazing players, but then also the atmospheres at Seven create. Is it as glamorous as what it seems as me as an outsider?
I genuinely think it's like the best, like just the best kind of rugby that you could play, especially if you like traveling. I think it's incredible. You stay in like really, really nice hotels, and then you're in really, really nice places. So it's really easy to fall into the mindset of like, not that you're on holiday, but like this should all just be fun.
Yeah, quite comfortable.
You often see that. Yeah, like sometimes it's like too comfortable. Like you don't have to cook. There's always like buffet meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're in like these amazing places. You just want to get out and see them. So you can kind of get like lulled into that you're there kind of for fun and not for work. But like I absolutely love it. Like every single stop is always looking to try and make yourself a little bit better. There was 1 or 2 things I wished I would have seen. I never got to play in Wellington when it was a full crowd there. The first I played there was when they brought in the drinking bans. So there was still the same amount of people in the stadium. It was really strange. Same amount of people in the stadium, but because you weren't allowed to drink in your seat, they were just all under the stadium. So it was still as loud as if there was like 50,000 people in there. Just you couldn't see anyone. So that was really strange. That's probably one of the only ones I wish I would have seen. But yeah, it's like flying everywhere and getting to play is just class. I love it.
Oh yeah, so we talked about a really glamorous area of sevens, but obviously we want to move on a little bit to Rio and the Olympics and the GB team. Obviously that should have been a fantastic experience for you, but for those that don't know, you're left as the 13th man. How did that really feel to you? Obviously that's not the best feeling in the world. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's always a strange one to talk to other people about it, or it was when people would ask you about it in kind of the year afterwards. So we basically did like 12-week camp with those like 34 of kind of the best sevens players, all came to live in the Lensbury in London, and we played 4 tournaments, and that was honestly like the best experience I think everyone in that group has had. And then I was captain of one of the teams, and we won 3 of the 4 tournaments and only lost 1 game by like a drop kick in it was really, really strange game. And I felt like I'd done enough to at least have a real good crack at being in the team. So it was a bit of a knockback being the 13th man. But then when it got to Rio, it just started getting it was the other boy that ended up coming out with me, Charlie Hare, who's the England Sevens coach now. By the end of it, we were like, oh, if you don't start laughing, you're just going to start crying, just in terms of like how many things started going wrong. But there's things like we weren't in the village, so we were in just like a flat somewhere in Rio, kind of cooking and cleaning for ourselves, which you don't think would happen if you've kind of got to the Olympics. You think it's going to be like this really great, amazing thing. We weren't allowed on the buses with the team, so we kind of having to get like taxis everywhere. And if you haven't tried to get a taxi in Rio, like a half an hour journey is about like 3 hours. It's just ridiculous. I sent my wallet back with one of the boys that got injured to London, so I didn't have my wallet for 2 weeks. What else happened? There's just like everything just kept going wrong. We weren't allowed with the team on the match day, so we just had like, we looked like the biggest Keno supporters, all our GB kit on, backpack on, just sitting in the sand. And we actually got our boots taken off us as well, because they didn't want us to take them into the stand, because, you know, like I had metal on the bottom and thought we'd use them as weapons. And just the amount of times we had to explain to people like, oh no, like I could go on the next game. But they were like, oh, okay. So I think like we had to get like escorted by the army to go and give our boots to one of the other boys, like pretty much just throw them over the fence. Just like stupid things like that. It was just like crazy, just kept going wrong. Like, as I said, like we were just, by the end of it, we were just laughing.
Was it those, you know, not being allowed to stay with the team and be with them on match days and stuff? Was that the Rio ruling, or was that something that England sort of said?
That was a Team GB thing, and it was to do with like accreditations, because Team GB is such a big team. They decided anybody who's like a reserve or like a 30, like an extra person wouldn't get one. But what was different in our situations for the men's and women's rugby was that like we could still technically compete. So if someone got injured, we could still go, but we were being treated the same way as if like a lot of the combat sports, they bring out young athletes to come and basically train with the people who are competing, and then that's their first experience. But like they would never ever be, they haven't qualified to compete in Rio, so they wouldn't be there. And then the only other kind of kick in the balls with that was that a lot of the other teams, their 13th and 14th players were like in with the teams in the village, able to go to training and things like that. Like we had to take our passports every time we wanted to go training, and you had to like spend about half an hour filling a form out every time, and they have to check everything, scan everything. It was just mad.
Right.
And I think part of it was just like, when you're 13th man in sevens, it's a good chance to be like a really good teammate. So you can be the one who's like getting the water bottles, like even just setting cones up, making sure everybody's got everything they need. That's often what the 13th man on like a World Series will do. You'll just basically being like the ultimate teammate. Not being able to do that because we just basically couldn't do anything, I think was also was one of the negatives of it.
Affect your motivation. We spoke to Abby Burton, who plays for England Sevens, and she was left out as the 13th man for the Olympic qualifiers, and she said that affected motivation straight away. But then she flipped it on her head to really motivate her to get into the Olympic squad. How did that like affect your motivation being the 13th man?
To be fair, it didn't particularly have I wouldn't say I had like a negative effect. It's just one of those things like, oh, you haven't been picked, can't do anything about it now. But as 13th, you still have a chance that you could play. Like there was another like 16 boys who were left and didn't even get that chance, and they were like even more cut up about it than I was. So always with the potential that you could have got on, And then it was just really strange that nobody actually got injured in the sevens tournament. Like, you can guarantee that at least one person would do. Obviously, the one which was tragic to see was Alex Davis getting injured in the camp when we were in Belo Horizonte, and then that's what led to Rory being called in. And that was really sad to see, because he's someone that I think deserved to be able to show what he could do on the biggest stage of the Olympics. But no, I've been, like, motivation wise, I think it's still something I want to aim for next year. I'm not really sure how it's going to happen with everything pretty much being cancelled or postponed. But I can't see any sevens being played until after Christmas at the very earliest, to be honest.
I mean, obviously, you've had four and a bit years to sort of digest all that and process it. I imagine it's a bit easier to talk about it now, to a certain extent. Probably not. But I suppose in 15s, you know, if you're sort of benched or, you know, you're part of a squad during the week and leading up to games, you're, like you said, you become the best teammate and you hold bags as best possible. And it's brutal, but again, it happens in elite sport all the time. Just regarding that though, how has that experience shaped you? You know, people talk about, you know, there's much more to life than rugby. Did that kind of give you a broader picture of things and where you want to be, say, you know, in the next Olympics?
I think so. I think I was at a fairly decent age for it to happen. So being like 22, I think if that happened to me when I was like 18, I think that would have, like, I think I would have dealt with that in like a horrible way. But being kind of 22, and probably one of the best people to speak to about it was Rory. So when he was us together were like the 13th, 14th man when we were in the pre-camp. And he was basically a bit like he is now, after going to the World Cup. He's a bit like, a couple of years ago, I was just playing university rugby. So he had like a completely different mindset from, I feel quite like lucky to be here, or I will get a chance at some point. So when we were speaking with each other, it was at the Kitten Out event. And I think that helped me quite a bit, because I was like, to be fair, a year ago I was studying medicine in university. If you'd have told me in a year's time you were going to be 13th man at the Olympics, I probably would have just like bitten your hand off. So seeing it from that point of view, I think made it a lot easier to handle. But yeah, if it would happen to me earlier, when I was younger, I think it would have been tougher. But if anything, it's made me want to keep working, even with this knockback now, with lockdown and sevens being cancelled for a little bit, just to keep training and keep going.
Backing yourself to get into the Olympic squad next year. I mean, obviously, I had a pretty positive season with Wales this season for yourself, making the most appearances, top point scorer for Wales so far in the Sevens circuit. Are you backing yourself to get into the Olympic squad?
I think it's going to be an even tougher squad to try and get into this year. I think the standard of sevens as just it kind of before that last Olympics, the 2 years previous to it, it just like shot up, because everybody was like, they wanted to be part of the first Olympic rugby teams. And I think it's just carried on for the last 4 years, especially when you look at teams like New Zealand, how far ahead of everyone I think they are at the moment. I think there's more competition within Britain, especially the Scottish team has really come on in the last 2 or 3 years. So all you can do is hope to be in this initial training squad and then just see what happens from there. Obviously, all of us who are involved in the previous one might get a slight advantage, and you kind of know what it might look like, or what they might be looking for to get into that GB squad. But at the moment, it looks like a bit of a strange roadmap to get there with no rugby in the near future. But I'd like to think I stand a good chance. So yeah, just looking forward to when we can get out playing again.
So moving on to sort of your lockdown antics, Luke. I suppose we're very lucky as professional sports people. We can sort of keep on training and trying to get better in this pretty difficult time. Mate, for those who don't know, you've set up a YouTube channel and things. What's been the motivation for that, and how has it been to have a bit of a focus like that, still to do with rugby?
Yeah, so it came about. So me and my brother are part of a kids coaching academy for sevens called UR Sevens Academy.
Yeah.
And we were looking for something to give back to the boys and the girls who were kind of just stuck in lockdown, looking for something to do. So we filmed like a little 5-part series of skills and a speed session that they could do. And from that, then we just decided, well, all of those members of our academy seem to enjoy it, so why not, let's start putting them on YouTube just for anybody who's stuck at home in lockdown and wants to practice some skills or some fitness or anything to do with rugby at all. So we've been quite lucky that my brother is pretty handy with the camera and editing and
Mate,
like anything.
some of the editing stuff, mate, was unreal, mate. Fair play.
Yeah, he's very, very good, to be fair to him. So he used to make a lot of content for a company when he was in university in Bristol. That's kind of where it comes from.
Okay.
So I think I've been very lucky in how he can film it, kind of in the quality and the editing and everything like that. And it's just like you said, it's just something that's been quite nice to focus on. I didn't realize there's quite as much work if you just want to put a video up on YouTube, what needs to go into it. But it's
Sam
been
does all that. I just sit here. Sam does all that. It's great.
certainly found out that doing the podcast, it's a lot more than you think, in it.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just like hit record and then put it straight on. But it's something we're really enjoying doing. It's rather than just sitting around the house all day, it's something to concentrate on and something kind of to give back, because I'm sure there's loads of like rugby fans everywhere who just want something to have a go at or do during lockdown. So we're going to keep doing it now. We're into a bit of a flow with how we film and what we plan. But yeah, it's had some nice feedback from the YouTube videos. And then the things we've just been putting up on Instagram, a bit more just stuff that we find funny and make us laugh. And we thought we'd just start putting them up on Instagram just to share with everyone else to see if they found it funny. And I think
on the UR sevens, are you like assigned to an area, or do you travel Britain to coach that stuff?
So the academy is split into North region, Southeast and a Southwest. And we do kind of 8 coaching sessions for each of the regions during the year. So I'll probably normally on like a Sunday for 3 hours. And then there's a big residential at the end of the year. So they're just divided into senior and junior, and then they'll come up north, they'll come for like 3 days. And I think it's class. If I was their age, I'd love to do it. So they basically just come and we do all sorts of them, speed testing, fitness testing, rugby skills, a bit of education around nutrition, strength and conditioning, all sorts about just trying to show them what it's like to be a professional rugby player and giving them a taste of it. And then at the end, they play like a big tournament against each other and the parents come and watch, and I think everyone loves it. And then on top of that, we do some tournaments. We take the boys to different tournaments to play in as well. But yeah, I personally love coaching in it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow.
I know a couple of lads in the setup in Yorkshire. Do you know Joe Baker, Toby Baker?
Yeah.
I coached Joe. Joe's a really good lad.
Do they enjoy it when they?
They say it's a really good experience. So that they missed a couple of games. The club, a couple of really important games as well. So which probably would have made a difference in. But no, they've really enjoyed that. So it's a different experience to stuff like the academy stuff, the county stuff. So it's very different, but it's just a different pathway. Like right now, there's not really a great pathway for boys into sevens. Like Sam, you know through school that you were a reasonably talented sevens player, more of a talented 15s player, but like sevens wasn't really an option through school, was it? Apart from playing in these tournaments,
I think apart. It's interesting you say with like the different academy setups. Like I think the main thing we want to do with our academy, we just want it to be really fun but still useful for the boys. So like I touched on earlier, like the kind of academies that are related to the clubs, it's very, very serious, all about putting on weight, how many like reps or something you're doing. Whereas we've got a big focus on, we've got all different kind of age groups and abilities, but it's coming together and enjoying and just playing and just learning from trying and doing it, and it doesn't matter if the kids get it wrong and whatever, you're never going to shout at them, but just trying to improve them kind of on the field and off it as well. So hopefully they all enjoy it. But yeah, personally, I love coaching in it.
My favorite one's been the Rugby 08 conversion. Luke, who was that your idea, or because that's brilliant, mate, and it got a bit of love on Instagram and then YouTube, didn't it?
Yeah, so that one that was my initial idea, but the actual skill of putting it together was all my brother David, with all like the logo and the arrow and the commentary and everything like that. So that's kind of how it works. I'll ask him whether he can do it, and then either says yes or no, or he'll be like, oh, but you could do this. So like just working together. But yeah, it seemed to have touched a lot of people, that in terms of like hit them with the nostalgia.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't think
best game ever.
Yeah, like there hasn't been another rugby game really quite like it, to be honest, is there?
No, it hasn't.
Obviously, you featured on YouTube a bit with your sevens as well before your channel. I think Sam's just going to get up on screen with the guys at home. I think what World Rugby called the funniest try ever.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it a few times. Talk us a little bit through that kick.
Like I actually don't mind talking about things like this. I think it's funny.
It's hilarious.
So it's actually right at the end of the game, and that year we were in quite a big like almost like a relegation battle with Japan. So there was that tournament, which was the second to last, and then Paris was the final one, and it was still quite neck and neck. And we'd ended up playing them in this game, and we were already winning by enough because there's only like 30 seconds left, and by the end of like a 40-minute game, you are like absolutely out on your feet. It doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, you are like gone by the time that whistle goes. And I think I just heard the buzzer, and I just looked up, and I was like, I think I thought I was closer to the touchline than I was. So I think in my head, I thought I was around like the 5-meter line. But I was just so lazy. Instead of like actually lining it up and kicking it, I've kind of like picked it up with one hand and tried to kick it all in the same like twisting movement. And then like as soon as I kicked it, I've just gone, oh no. And then one of the boys is on the floor, and obviously he's waiting for the ref's whistle, and he goes, what the fuck just happened there? I was just like, everyone's just trying to run behind ball. And then obviously we end up scoring from it, which is why it's so funny. And then I'm almost the person that gets given the pass, because I was like, I would have just finished it off if I was the one to score it as well.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Almost like it was planned, wasn't it?
Well, that's the thing. It's just I think it's one of those things you don't even have to understand anything about rugby just to understand like it's completely, something's gone so wrong that it's ended up going right. But
brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. We're obviously doing a bit of research on you. We looked at it. I just started laughing. It looked like one of my kicks. Honestly, it wasn't one of the best things.
And some of mine.
You scored from it, and that's all that matters. If you get the ball over the line and score, perfect way to do it, isn't it?
Exactly, but it follows me around. So I think the first residential we did with the academy was maybe like a month after it. And I reckon out of like the 200-300 boys there, I reckon at least half of them at some point came up to me and asked me about that kick, or said they showed all their friends and stuff. And, I'm just glad people found it funny. So
Brilliant. So we spoke about sort of shifting of cultures with the size thing, Luke, coming out of when you were in the academy when you were younger. I think you'll probably agree with me that there's definitely shifting interest with players and professional athletes becoming a bit more active on social media, and something that's so powerful. Obviously you've had the YouTube channel and been on Instagram and active, and why wouldn't you when you travel the world for your job, which is pretty special. How do you feel it's going to go with players, and how important do you think that is for potentially younger players, maybe putting some highlights up or getting seen?
I think it's hugely important, and it's something that I found it a little bit annoying in kind of the age that we've grown up in that social media's got so big, yet so many like professional sports don't seem to want to like acknowledge it, or haven't acknowledged it until quite recently. So I put together like a video of just like a whole year that we did on the Seven series like 3 or 4 years ago. With the base idea, it's just like a really nice memory, shows what we do. And basically every school we go into when we go away for a week, we'll show it to the children, and they absolutely love it. But got absolutely slated from kind of the union over it, being like, oh, it just looks like you're on holiday the whole time. I was a bit like, well, like people should be able to, like, people don't want to see you just running around tackling each other in the rain in Wales. Like you'd hope people could like put 2 and 2 together, being like, oh, there is serious work, it's like a professional sport. So I kind of got put off it a little bit, but more recently there seems to be more of an acceptance that it's a good way, one, to either like build your brand or just connect with people who are watching you. So I see it as a good chance to be like a role model for any like aspiring players, especially in something like sevens, in that there's, in that academy, if you ask the boys, do you want to be a 15s professional or a sevens professional? A good like 80% of the boys want to play sevens because of it's like traveling around the world playing, you're in like hot countries, it looks really fun, but there's not loads and loads and loads of stuff for them to watch on social media. That's part of the reason why I tried to put some more stuff up, just to show them what it's like, what they can do to help get themselves if they really want to go there. And on top of it, I just think there's so many great personalities in rugby anyway. I don't like the idea that people aren't allowed to show that for whatever reason, because it's not seen as like professional or something like that.
Definitely. I think there's definitely, there's a certain stereotype when rugby players or many sportsmen come and do media stuff. They're just talking of stuff that's been rehearsed to them, and I think it's a huge, especially for social media and personal pages, I think there's a huge attraction for younger players, and like you said, being a role model to show a bit of character. And like you said, I've seen some of your videos with going with the students on tours and things like that. I think it's a huge platform. Like you said, obviously we're in a privileged position to do what we do, but huge platform to generate some content and connect with some of the followers.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that always, I've done it myself a couple of times, to be fair, in interviews where you just like roll out
it's just easy. Yeah.
It's just too easy. But part of that is because if you start saying anything that's kind of not to script, you'll have someone telling you, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Although there's definitely, in the last like year or two, there's been a shift where they want you to engage a bit more and talk a bit more, which I'm more than happy to see. I just suppose it's like anything that needs some change. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah, there's definitely been a shift in all of rugby, really, to start treating rugby players, you athletes, as individuals rather than as robots that they can get, that are designed to make them money or designed to perform for them. I think within coaching, within everything, there's been much more emphasis put on creativity around these players in all aspects, not just on the pitch. I think it's a great shift to see where rugby's going to get these personalities through.
Yeah, I think so. I think rugby's such like a short and can be like a fickle career as well. So it's just another avenue that a rugby player could have. Hopefully someone doesn't get like a career-ending injury, but if you've built kind of your own brand or social media presence, that's just another way that you might be able to support yourself when rugby finishes, or get yourself out there so different companies, jobs can see you. So I think it's something our Players Association is trying to educate more of the boys on, also going to get different degrees or qualifications or things that'll help them after rugby. But more recently, it's been around how to use social media to your advantage, just to help you out. And you're doing cool things, so why not show these cool things to people who want to see them?
Absolutely.
Pretty short career, isn't it, rugby? And obviously those massive dangers, and you hear stories almost monthly, weekly about players having to end the career early through career-ending injuries or whatnot. What are you looking to get into after you finished your rugby? Are you looking to get back into medicine, or are you going to look to explore different avenues?
So part of over the last couple of years, I have been using our Players Association is brilliant in Wales for just getting us out to try and see some different things. So I essentially said to them, I've only ever kind of seen rugby and medicine at any kind of depth, so I wouldn't mind just seeing some other jobs just to see whether I'd like them. So I've chatted to a few different businesses. The medicine is always still an option, but the longer I leave it, I think the harder it will be for me to get back in. I did put myself forward to come back during the corona crisis just to see if they needed any more doctors, but they were looking to get the ones who had just retired back in first, so I think I was far enough down the pecking order I wouldn't have to go back in. But at the moment, working with our Players Association, just trying to build like a CV and maybe send it out to some other jobs just to do some work experience there in the next year or so, just to see. So I think there was like management consulting was one of those. A couple of my friends have gone into that from medicine, so that's something I'm open to. But hopefully a few more years of rugby left in me before that.
So no, we asked 3 questions at the end of each podcast to all our guests, all the same questions. First one is, what's the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you?
Best piece of advice. So when I was leaving the academy coach there was Rob Appleyard, and he basically said to me, like, you haven't failed until you quit. So obviously it was a big shift in my life going from this academy 15 set up to then going to uni and studying something else. But I knew I probably wanted to play something along the lines of sevens professionally, but it was going to be a slightly longer road to get there. So that's something I've always have written down somewhere. So yeah.
Second question is, has there been a book or series that you've been watching, reading recently that people at home should check out, motivationally wise, or just because it's good?
There's been a few. One of the good books that I have read quite recently is Born to Run.
Yes, I read that recently. Great book.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. Don't know how it really ties back to rugby, but it's just something really interesting that I think most people who play sport will find a good read, just because it's completely just opens your mind and your eyes to something that was never aware of before. And then series wise, to be fair, I started watching Our Normal People recently, so that was been quite good to watch. But again, I don't know how that fits in motivational or anything like that.
Sometimes just keeping yourself entertained, isn't it, during times where you can't really do a lot. So definitely stuff that people at home should check out. And then final question is, we've touched on it a little bit, what's next for Luke Treharne?
So the next big goal is having a good crack again into this Olympic team with Team GB. Like I said, there's a bit of a stranger roadmap to get there now, but that's the next big aim.
Yeah, obviously you talked about YouTube channel, your social media. If people want to find you on social media, Twitter, Instagram, where can they find you?
So you can either go Luke Treharne, I think that's across Insta, Twitter, YouTube, or if you type in This Is Sevens, it should come up as well. So yeah, check it out.
And Sam, where can they find you?
At Sam Leeming 10 across all platforms.
Thank you guys for watching at home.
Cheers.